There we go. Sorry, guys. I'm your legal bestie attorney, Symone. I am here live from the Diddy trial in New York City. And I'm going to give you a recap of today, which is day 14, Monday, day 14. I don't count the days of jury selection. And we finally finished up with Mia, y'all. Whew. Mia, Mia, Mia. So we finally finished up that testimony. And y'all, that defense is messy. Messy, messy, messy. I want your thoughts on how this went. Hey, how are you doing?
One of Puffy people is talking over there. The guy that walked that travels with him.
Oh,
He's doing an
thank you.
interview right over there.
Oh, okay. So one of Puppy's people, I appreciate it. One of Puppy's people doing an interview right over here. Interesting.
That's the godson or something.
Oh, like his godson or something. Okay. So today, so Mia got on the stand, and here's the tea from that, y'all. I will not bore you with the details. It's kind of the same old, same old. On the defense side, they are trying to show that she's not credible. That, who in the world gets essayed by someone and continues to work for them years later, that whole thing. Here's the thing. Ultimately, what I think is that I think that it, in my experience, I've had clients who have been essayed, particularly children, teenagers, etc. And I feel that her testimony and the way that she testified, especially on the first day and so forth, was consistent with someone who had the experience, blocked it out, thought they would never have to address it again, and bringing up those memories are creating all of the challenges and issues we face today. However, I also recognize that it's going to be a real narrow group of people who believe her. In the end, most people are going to just, when it comes to law, it's the story that makes the most sense is the story that wins. They always say the person who tells the better story wins. And I think it's just going to be too hard of a leap for the majority of jurors, or even for half the jurors, to find that Mia really was essayed and then that she wanted to continue working for him. Furthermore, they're using her as well to prove forced labor. Y'all, I don't know how you get to forced labor when she has a text message, when they include a text message of Mia telling Diddy, I'm going to unalive myself after she finds out that she is laid off. Yeah, have I noticed the jury's reaction? Yeah, the jury wasn't really buying it this afternoon, honestly, in this morning. They were over it. They were tired. It was super redundant. They were sleepy. Sometimes they would like kind of tap each other or look at one another like, did you hear that? We didn't get so much of that today. Um, yeah, one of the jurors was laughing when they went to break. Not like laughing in her face, but it was like a smirk. It was like one of those, huh. And it was one of those times. Oh, y'all, I think it was right after, it was shortly after the R. Kelly text. Y'all, so this was after Mia stopped working for Puff. She hadn't worked for him. She stopped working for him in 2017. I'm going to say it was 19. She sends Puff a text message that basically says, it says, um, hey, love you. Was thinking about you. I just had a dream the other day that I was stuck in an elevator with R. Kelly and you came and you saved me. Ah, yeah. Yeah. And so I was like, what in the hell? Of all the references, that's what you want to do? Girl, I don't think so. That's not going to work. That's not going to get it. At the end of the day, these are regular, hardworking people. So if it doesn't make sense to them, then they're not going to vote accordingly. Tina said the jurors were laughing at her last week and others elbowing, saying, I told you so. But I told you guys, I've said women make the toughest jurors in these kinds of essay cases because we think about what would we do under these facts. And if it don't make sense, if it's not consistent with what we would do, we're like, this person isn't telling the truth. Now, but here's the afternoon facts that came out that I thought were interesting. So they went ahead, they did the cross examination after lunch. Brian Steele reiterated that she wanted to work for Diddy because, again, with forced labor, if this person is saying, I wanted to work here, I'm mad I got fired, a jury's not buying the forced labor. So in the end, I I need to see more, but I ultimately think that it was a mistake for the prosecution to have her discuss being essayed. Here's why. She's there to help support, improve coercion, how the racketeering enterprise operates with fear and, using their security guards and so forth to cover up offenses. But she's also there to prove up forced labor. You don't need SA to prove forced labor. There's two ways to show forced labor. One is with physical threats, and one is without. Without physical threats would be proof that he's gotten mad and yelled and told you things like "you'll never work again in this town," or "I'm gonna, lie on your reputation." That it's gonna be reputational harm. That he's gonna create financial destruction. All of those things could be proven without this SA story. Believe it or not, it says, I think they used her for the SA only upon hearing that Gina copped out. That makes sense. Do I think KK or D Rock will testify? KK will testify because she has to, and if she doesn't, she's going to jail. So, yes. I actually did a extended live last night where I talked about who is and who won't be testifying. And KK is going to be testifying. She's the highest up, and she is terrified of jail. Okay, that lady cannot go to jail. She don't look like she can fight, worth a lick. So she is going to respond because what happened is the prosecutors likely consider KK to be what's called a unindicted co-conspirator, or she could have a sealed indictment, either one of the two. In either case, in the end, it's like, we'll give you immunity if you speak, but if you don't speak, you are getting charged. So you could either be a witness or a co-defendant, Miss Thing. So thank you, Maine. Thank you for that super chat. So she's definitely now D-Rock, y'all, is one of Diddy's security guards. I don't know if D-Rock's going to testify, and here's why. D-Rock's been in prison before. So if you don't show up for the subpoena, you're going to get locked up. And in D-Rock's case, allegedly, he went to prison. He took a charge for Biggie. When Biggie came out, Biggie took care of him. That was part of why they were so close. So D-Rock might be thinking, hey, Biggie did it for me back in the day. And I could see Diddy promising, like, hey, you don't show up, I'm going to make sure you're taken care of. So that's about 50-50 there. Make sure y'all hit that subscribe, y'all. There's another security guard. There's Roger Bonds. Roger Bonds is likely going to be the one to testify. Again, I think D-Rock's 50-50. I think D-Rock could go over to Bali or wherever else with his wife and $5 to $10 million, and we're not going to see nothing from D-Rock. But here's what we did see today, all right? So there was more testimony that Mia was confused by her layoff and she was so disappointed, blah, blah, blah. But then, y'all, it's Brian Steele. It became a knockdown, drag out fight in there. So Brian Steele kept trying to get in Mia's therapy notes. So Brian Steele asked Mia, well, you didn't tell anyone that you were SA'd until after you got a lawyer. And she was like, well, no, that's not true. I think I told my therapist. So then Brian Steele goes, is there any evidence? Brian Steele then asked the question, would you be willing to waive? And then they objected, right? Basically, what he was going to say is, would you be willing to waive the privacy that you get under the law with your therapist? Would you be willing to waive it so he could see those records? Y'all, that is so improper. You cannot ask something like that on the jury stand. Now, he began to formulate the question. Not only did the prosecution object, the judge hollered sustain. Do you know this man did that 4 times? He did it 3 times in a row, slightly trying to rephrase the question. Each time they were like, object, object, object. And then after the lunch break, he tried it one more time and they had a sidebar. In the morning when he did it as well, they had a sidebar. Here's why it's improper. In effect, what he was alleging is, yes, there's a privilege, right, between you and your therapist. But on the stand, he is asking Mia if she would be willing to waive that privilege so he could see her therapy records. You can't ever do that in front of a jury. That's super improper. For the same reason that each time someone says they're going to plead the fifth and they want immunity, that always takes place outside of the presence of the jury. Why? Because if you do that in front of the jury, it makes the jury think you're hiding something. So by him on the stand asking her if she would waive the privacy of her therapist's notes so he could take a look at them. First of all, ain't no time for that. When she gets off the stand today, that's that. You can't call that girl a bitch. But second of all, by you asking that, it then creates in the mind of the jury the fact that she's hiding something. So what ended up happening is after they came back to lunch, they addressed it with the jury. The prosecution asked that the judge instruct the jury to disregard it. Hit that subscribe, and thanks so much for the super sticker. He asked the jury to disregard it and to not consider it. She never answered, so that was helpful. But yo, you cannot do that. This man was really wilding. He was really wilding today. It says, why doesn't the judge fine him for doing that? Honestly, that could be grounds for mistrial. The problem is the prosecution does not want a mistrial. The prosecution wants a verdict. The defense wants a mistrial. So when the defense continues to do stuff like you can't fine them, someone asking you fine them, you can't fine them. You could sanction them, and they could be in big trouble that way. But yeah, somebody said he knew what he was doing by asking her that, and he just putting the question out there is going to make the jury feel like she's lying. Hit that subscribe. Yeah, Steele works. He wants a mistrial. He loves a procedural way to get what he wants. That's how come with the YSL trial, he used procedure. He used the risk of mistrial to ultimately get the probation time served agreement that he got for Young Thug, and which was a win, so to speak. Also, y'all, please tell me why the defense published Mia's photo today in the courtroom accidentally. So many believe that it's the defense that actually leaked her photo and wanted her identity to be out there. But today in court, what was supposed to happen is all the photos that are on the screens of her are supposed to be redacted, where her face is blurred, y'all. That was not the case today. It was not blurred. It was the defense's exhibit. The defense put that out there. And then it's been very frustrating because they're talking about leaks and stuff like that in the courtroom. That, and yeah, that absolutely, somebody said they doxed her. We don't know if the defense doctor, but they absolutely today showed her face. They showed her face on the screen, y'all. All right, and then let me give you the final highlights of her testimony, y'all. So in her testimony, she then went, they did the cross, right? In the cross, he got her pretty good. He had really strong questions, including like, you said you wanted to unalive yourself. What are you talking about? That you're forced to work there. You should have been happy that your job was over, but you said you were devastated. He did that whole line of questioning. Then on redirect, they clarified that all those social media posts that Ryan still put up, they clarified that that wasn't really her personal social media. That was truly her work-related social media, because it was part of her job to do Diddy's social media, and as part of her job for her to post certain things about her job, including if she didn't post about her boss, it would look suspicious. It would look odd. It said, it said if she didn't, and if she didn't make posts that were celebrating him, she could get punished. She could get in trouble. Can't you see her face in the actual? Yeah, I saw her face in the courtroom. Right. But in the overflow room, you could not. In the overflow room, so the issue is this: in the overflow room is supposed to be all the redacted exhibits. Like on the screen for the gallery is supposed to be the redacted exhibits. So the concern as well is that, oh gosh, if they put up on the screen the non-redacted exhibit, there's a chance that they may put that non-redacted exhibit on the public record. Hey y'all, hey, on the public record, and then everyone would then know who she is. So the defense should be penalized, and how they needs to be some type of penalty. Also, so they talked about how birthday posts for her job. They talked about the happy birthday video that was played that she said, happy birthday to Diddy on his birthday. In the video, she was drinking water, not alcohol. They also said, why don't you post about the negative things, like the bad things that happen to you? She was like, that's not what social media is. Like, you don't post those things in social media. That's not what you celebrate. So then the prosecutor said, is that why you didn't post about Diddy busting Cassie in the head and creating and causing her to be bloodied in the head? She said yes. And she said, is that why you didn't post about Diddy throwing a computer at your head? She said yes. Is that why you didn't post about Diddy SAing you? She said yes. Because oddly enough, Brian still actually had a line of questioning that was like, why didn't you tell anybody? Why didn't you post about it? Blah, blah, blah. And then they asked her why she didn't, use HR or tell HR. And she said, because she saw that people got fired for doing that. And that she testified that Diddy actually told her to testify against Capricorn Clark and against another worker named Taylor, who left the company as a result of reporting abuse and other things. So Kayla left, or Kayla got fired after reporting that Cassie, that he beat up on Cassie. Said defense should be penalized. This woman said the woman is a drug and a drug user. Who are you talking about, Mia or? Yeah, somebody says HR works with Diddy. No, HR actually works for Diddy. So HR executes his dirty work. So if someone reports that they've observed Diddy doing something bad, HR then makes up a lie as to why to fire that person, and then they just get rid of them. Yeah, and that was shown to Capricorn Clark. That was shown with the white guy. I think it was David James. Said HR is not your friend, especially not Diddy's HR. No, it wasn't. But here was the other thing that came out in Cross that I thought was very interesting. So remember Ryan Steele, he had this mic drop moment, right? Where he tried to say, hit that subscribe button, y'all guys. Ryan Steele and the like. Ryan Steele said, isn't this just a Me Too money grab? He was saying, you didn't come out and even say that you had been SA'd until after you got your lawyer. And that was after Cassie got her settlement. So isn't this just a Me Too movement money grab? She was like, no. And I thought to myself, I was like, hold on. I was like, wait a minute. On redirect, the prosecution better clarify this. And they did a decent job. The prosecution established her lawyer was pro bono. This wasn't one of those millionaire lawyers that makes you a millionaire. It wasn't like the lawyer that Cassie got, But what Brian tried to get into evidence was that her lawyer got somebody else like an $80 million settlement in some type of case. Or verdict, settlement, either one, right? And Brian was like, isn't it true she got 80? And then the judge himself was like, sustain. The prosecution was like, object. And the judge immediately sustained it. But he tried to get in the back twice that her lawyer got somebody hundreds of millions of dollars. But in her case with Mia, her lawyer took her case pro bono. The other important thing, though, to note, though, it could not possibly be a money grab to be, because the implication is the reason she changed up and for the first time last summer said to the feds that it was SA is because she wanted money. Here's the thing. She couldn't get money. She couldn't get it out of them because when she left in 2017, she sued Diddy then. She sued him and she got $400,000 was the total settlement. She only got $200,000 of it. But she signed, whenever you do that, you always sign an agreement that says you will no longer sue this employer for anything that arises out of this employment. So that means what she got, that 400, she got what she got. She can't, even if she says today I was R-worded, it doesn't matter. She already signed that settlement agreement. She already resolved that employment law case. And that's, the lawyer's gonna be, yeah. And that's why there's no way it could have been a money grab in any capacity because there was no money she could have grabbed. In other words, when she left in 2017 and settled her case, that case covered all the assaults, anything that happened to her on the job. And that's when nothing happened to her after she left. She doesn't claim that anything happened after she left. So that's just an important thing for y'all to know. Please, she could still take it to court. She could take something criminal to court, yes, but you can't have a civil case. Okay, true. I don't know if you're talking about. They are definitely falling for the BS. Okay, Bad Boy truly is small business in nature. Did the prosecution make that point? No, the prosecution did not make the point that I just said that, hey, she settled it. She couldn't get a dime more. No, all they said was, isn't it true that your lawyer's pro bono? And she said yes. I think it would have been a lot stronger to reiterate. They never even asked her. Listen, prosecution never even asked her. Have you ever asked, after you got your settlement in 2017, have you ever asked Diddy for a dime? No. Has he or one of his associates offered you money? Yes. Who? D-Rock. Did you accept it? No. I don't want any money from them. They should have hummed it. How's it going to be a money grab when she never asked for money? And when it was offered, money was offered to her by D-Rock in 2024. And at that point, when D-Rock offered her money, she said no. Oh, y'all, we have less than 300 likes and we've got over 1,000 watching. Are they new lawyers? I don't know if they're new lawyers. I think part of it too is like, if you're going to ask a question like that, isn't it true you can't get any more after this settlement? That's the kind of question she might not know unless you prep her. She may not know that answer because it's something a lawyer would know, but she may not know. But you can easily prep her and be like, hey, wasn't it your understanding that when you were suing him, it was going to encompass everything that happened to you on the job? Yes. And so I feel like if she was going to lie about being SA, the time to lie was back then when she was trying to negotiate up for 400,000 to get her 10 million. So that's why I don't feel like she's a complete liar. But who am I to say? How many questions can you ask on redirect? As many that are needed as needed. But you have to focus on, your questions have to be focused on information that came out in cross. You can't just redo your initial direct. It says, I hope they're covering other things. Oh, and then the other witness that took the stand, y'all, it was a woman that was the manager for the Beverly Hills Hotel. More oil, guys. She testified that he was nasty, that he would stay there quite a bit. And they had like a whole folio, like the receipts from his stays, that one of the stays, there was a $300 deep cleaning fee of the draperies. That was from prior testimony where there was a lot of, apparently there's like some period blood on the drapes. I don't know, it was real nasty. She also had to buy him a bunch of candles. And then there was a $500 damage charge for oil. It says $500 oil damage. There was also revealed that on one of the stays, like it had the names, it was Cassie, it was Diddy, and Diddy would stay there under aliases. But on this one trip, it was Cassie and somebody named Dominique Neal. I'm pretty sure he's one of the hookers, the male hookers, the S workers. But that just further helps prove up. The transportation for prostitutes. It's so gross. Hit that like, y'all. Hit the subscribe. If I were groped multiple times, all she could get was 400K. Seems low. No. What I'm trying to say is, with Mia, we're going back to Mia. Mia settled and got 400K for like wrongful termination, as well as unpaid wages, missing overtime, those things. Mia never told them that she was SA. Remember, she didn't mention it until six months after the feds first interviewed her. She stated that she blocked it out, put it in the back of her head, said she was going to die, take that secret to her grave, and that it wasn't until she got an attorney. And basically, her attorney, we always do. We say, tell me everything. And then she spilled the beans. She also went to therapy and began talking to her therapist about it in 2024. But that was not focused on the way that it should have been. But I think that's because they did not want to open the door to having her therapy records become admissible, because right now they're not admissible. So the end is, the point is, if she would have said back in 2017 when they were negotiating that 400K settlement, that would have been the time to lie. If it's a lie, to lie and say like, oh yeah, I got SA. So my point is, if she didn't mention it then, and mentioning it now, and now she has nothing to gain. That's just my point. She literally has nothing. She can't get a dime. She settled for all there was to settle. So what would be her incentive? All right, there's only 400 likes, y'all. Let's hit that like. Let's hit that subscribe. It says they already said they know where Gina is, but she's not talking to the prosecutors. Oh, so that's what's next, guys. Who is up next? Tomorrow morning is going to be some guy named Eddie Garcia. I think he's the one from the hotel that took the bribe or took the 100K or whatever it was in order to make the video go missing. So he's going to be tomorrow. And they also said they are coordinating so that Jane, which I believe is victim number 2, who I think might be Daphne Joy, y'all, is supposed to testify starting Wednesday evening, but at the latest Thursday, because she's got to leave town and go somewhere. So, it says we don't know if, somebody said Rihanna. It is not Rihanna. It's not Rihanna. Here we go. It's definitely not Rihanna. Let's go to Bali and find Gina. Yeah, definitely go there. Oil charges. Definitely go there. But also, just to recap, other people that will and won't be testifying, they can't close this out without KK. KK, who is Diddy's right-hand woman, will have to get up on that stand, and she'll do so under immunity, more than likely. We have to hear from her. And we have to hear from at least one of Diddy's security guards. D-Rock would be great. I think D-Rock is so loyal, he may accidentally come up missing on purpose. But Roger Bonds has said that Roger Bonds was open, that if he was asked, that he would be willing to testify. Sorry, someone's asking who Daphne Joy is. Daphne Joy is 50 Cent's baby mama, who was also one of Diddy's girlfriends, who would do those FOs with him and whatever else, according to Little Rod, allegedly. So I was saying, yeah, we need at least one. There's got to be a 2 or 3 bodyguards would be great. Uncle Polly would be amazing. But those are the witnesses that you leave to the end of the prosecution's presentation. The prosecution said they're going to wrap not this Friday, but next Friday, right? And so we're going to see KK at some point. Can't wait to do so. They're going to have to call some security officers, at least one of the security guards. Now, who we're not going to see? Gene Deal. Gene Deal won't be testifying. He won't be testifying in this case. We also, I was very chatty with the media, yeah. So Gene Deal, he won't be testifying. Little Rod, some people have asked, Little Rod, who was the first male to file a civil suit, he will not be testifying either. None of the sons, Justin, Quincy, Christian, they will not be testifying. Wait, somebody's asking, Diddy was doing way too much with too many women. He has talked too much and received too much money. Oh, I think you might be talking about Roger Bonds. I only want to listen to your coverage. Thank you. You're the only one who's not biased and tells the facts. And I know what I'm talking about. Thank you. I do. Is Daphne Joy suing Diddy? No. See, here's why I think victim 2, which would be Jane, is Daphne Joy. I think it's Daphne Joy because it's someone who was in a relationship with him that started around 2021. We Googled on one of the lives, and that was around when she started dating Diddy. Also, Diddy loves to take the girlfriends of his nemesis. 50 Cent is his nemesis, right? But also, Daphne Joy has to cooperate with the prosecution because, and that way she can be painted as a victim. Because, baby, if she is an active S worker, if she is an active co-conspirator, 50 Cent is going to have her up in that courtroom, is going to drag that lady all through court. She's going to lose all type of custody. So I firmly believe that Daphne Joy, if she's going to participate in it at all, she is going to cooperate to the fullest with the prosecution because she don't want to risk being in that custody battle with 50 Cent because she don't get no child support if you take that baby back. Oh, somebody said it wasn't Daphne. It says the girl was described as not having money. Daphne has 50's money. Okay. How are they fumbling this? The prosecution has to step it up. Great job. You're the sauce. So proud of you. Thank you, Kim Clark. Yeah, let's get those likes up, guys. We have less than 500 likes and 1,500 in the chat. Yeah, that's the street. Definitely the only one who's neutral covering this. Yeah, some people don't. They're like, you're not neutral. Look, I have to tell you both sides of the law so that you guys can decide. Also, that helps me keep track of how it's going. But I feel like as far as forced labor and what Mia was supposed to prove, they could have done it without her. I think with Mia, they should not have had her talk about that S assault. If there's no evidence, if there's not even a text message to a homegirl, there's not an R kit, if there's nothing, I think it would have been stronger to not mention. Y'all tell me in the chat below. Stronger to not mention it because you don't need our word to prove forced labor. You don't need that. Is it an element of coercion? Yeah, okay. But you could still prove forced labor. Second of all, you really probably didn't want to call her to the stand in the first place if the person you're calling to the stand to prove forced labor then sends their boss a text message talking about, I'm unalive myself when he lays her off. Girl, what is it? Now, she says, she was brainwashed and la-di-da-di-da. But at the end of the day, the average Joe who's on that jury, the average Joe is not going to be doing all these mental gymnastics, okay? The average Joe is going to say, what would a reasonable person do? And if that's not what this witness does, they're going to say, witness isn't reasonable. Witness is incredible. So thank you guys for tuning in. I will be back tomorrow. Let me know what other topics you want me to cover down below. Make sure you hit that like and that subscribe. See you later.